When there was hockey to be played on Tuesday night between the Canadiens and Senators, the Canadiens came out on top. And when the hockey stopped and the brawl starting, they did pretty well there too.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that ensures you don't miss an episode, and it really supports us here on the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as That Maybe It's Ian, and I'm joined, as I always am, by the wonderful Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. We have a doozy today. The dumbest game on the calendar from a mile away. We knew it was coming, and we cannot wait to talk about it because Montreal won just about everywhere on the ice. Laura, how are you feeling after that, I guess, hockey game against the Ottawa Senators?
I think it was really I want to summarize this in that the Montreal Canadiens, who were supposed to be the visiting team, and the Ottawa Senators were supposed to be the home team. The Montreal Canadiens did the stick salute at the end of the game to the fans. So that's how I'm feeling at the moment.
Fold the team. How do you continue after that? L plus ratio even. Like, I don't know how you continue to do. Anyway, we have a lot to get to in this episode. I want to talk. We're going to start with the sideshow stuff because I think there's actually a story to be told there other than these guys hate each other a whole lot. I want to talk about Kirby Kapanen. Nope, wrong Kapanen. That was the question from yesterday's episode. I want to talk about Oliver Kapanen and how he really rose to the occasion, and I think he stole that last roster spot. And I want to talk about Kirby Dach, who had a night. But let's start with the thing we saw coming from a mile away. And I will say, we got almost 2 periods into this game before the nonsense started. We almost made it. It was a pretty clean couple first periods. There was the one hit that put a Senator, I think it was Bolduc, he hit a Senator into like the Pacioretty glass, which fitting Max Pacioretty just announced his retirement. Congrats on your career, Max. Maybe we'll talk about that later this week. But nothing came of that. I think everyone recognized it was more of an unfortunate incident. Like it wasn't intentional. He wasn't trying to hurt him. He was just finishing his check, whatever. And then it all fell apart. It starts in the late in the second period where Hodgson boards Newhook. Newhook after the game did not have really nice comments about Hodgson on that play. He said it kind of shows who he is as a guy. He said he had been running his mouth the whole game trying to start something. It's unfortunate. He then fights Carrier. I think Carrier kind of jumps him and, they do whatever. McEwen then in the scrum that appears later on as they're trying to get this all situated, McEwen says something to Jack-Eye and then goes after him, and then Jack-Eye handles him in a way that just looks like it was from a fighting video game. Like he throws him to the ice and picks him back up by the scruff of his jersey just to give him one last uppercut. It was like he hit the right buttons to make the perfect combo and put that guy on the ground.
Yeah.
Struble then cross-checks Yannick in the face. This is the one thing I want to talk about that I think the Canadiens should be chastised for. That can't happen.
You can't cross-check a guy in the face. Doesn't matter if he's an Ottawa Senator. You still can't do it.
No, you can't do it. He was bleeding. Then, for good measure, Struble then fought him and again dropped him. That was not a close fight. Later on, McEwen hits Evans a few seconds after the whistle. It was like whistle, beat, puts him into the wall. I think McEwen does that knowing full well that both Jack-Eye brothers are on the ice and knowing that the referees, if Jack-Eye's even look in his direction, are getting ejected. And that's what happened. Arbor got ejected. Florian got a fighting major. So we didn't see them the rest of the game. Let's just generally speaking, let's go with the therapist answer. How did all this make you feel?
Honestly, I kept getting annoyed because the Senators were just starting things, and they were the instigator. And I firmly believe that yes, Jayden Struble should not cross-check a person in the face. But everywhere you looked on the ice, it looked like the Sens were trying to get under the Montreal Canadiens' skin. I don't like that the Habs took the bait, but I like how they held themselves once they did. Right? I like that they won the fights. I like that they they didn't they still dominated in the game, right? Like they didn't allow themselves to descend to that level. They stayed above it to a certain extent, but they didn't take any crap. So, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, like I feel annoyed that the Ottawa Senators exist. And I know all our listeners probably agree with me right now. And I feel that I'm proud of my Habs for not being dirty. And I saw a couple of Sens fans talking about the Habs being dirty, and I was like, you go take care of what's in your own backyard.
Yeah.
Stop over here. Keep your house in order. Keep your side of the team. This is not, it's not the Montreal Canadiens that are the problem in this game. It is the Ottawa Senators starting things and talking and just like really trying their best to get under the Canadian skin. And what I thought was not super fair was the Canadiens dressed a much better lineup than the Ottawa Senators. And so like you don't go into an exhibition game like in another city where it's supposed to be showcasing and you don't do that, right? Like it just it felt really not it felt, I hate the word classless when it's used in hockey, but it was classless.
Yeah. When it comes to Sens fans calling the Canadiens dirty, those who live in Nick Cousins' houses should not throw stones. He slashed Ivan Demidov on the hands. He knew what he was doing. He acted like, oh, I can't believe that's a penalty. He two-handed the front runner for the Calder Trophy on the hands in a game that was already out of hand. Like there's no defending it. There was a word you used that's the first one that comes to mind for me, and that was proud. I was proud of the way that these guys stood up for one another. And they were not out here to instigate this. They were out there to retaliate, to even the score, which is when you have a guy like Arbor Xhekaj and you can not get away with it because he served a lot of penalty minutes tonight. That's what he's there for. It's never going to be a deterrent. It's never going to make people stop, but it's going to punish them for doing these things. I think we're getting to a point though where the players are starting to realize this is a stupid game. Brendan Gallagher was asked why he was asked after the game, why do you guys play this game? Like, why is this on the schedule? And he took a deep breath and he thought about it for a second. And he goes, well, it's nice to play for the fans in Quebec City. That's a bad start. That's a bad start to that answer. And it means that the answer is that none of us want to play this game. And after that, he said, I think he took every ounce of control that man has in him. And he said, you saw the lineup the other coach played. You know what kind of game they're trying to play. That's it. The end all be all is that the Canadiens are recognizing that the Senators are not treating this as an exhibition game. They're treating this as a place to draw first blood. And I want to give the Canadiens full marks. Jayden Struble aside, he's going to get in trouble for that. Fine, suspension, whatever. He needs to get something for that. But I give the Canadiens full marks for telling the Senators, you're not going to do that, and we're also going to kick the crap out of you in this hockey game. Yeah. Like, I think the only way you win here is not by acquiescing and taking guys out of the lineup, as much as that sucks. It's by beating them at their own game. And I hate to tell this to Senators fans, this team is going to have two Xhekajs on it for a long time. You better chill. You will not end up on the winning side of this often. So relax. This was an arms race, and you lost. So it's over. And the reason the Canadiens have guys like Xhekaj is because of years of the Senators doing this. This team has existed for 30 years and has never risen above this level of hockey. Never. Never in their entire history. They've always been this. So I'm not here to hear this from Sens fans being like, well, the Canadiens are blah, blah, blah. The Canadiens don't want to play this way. And Brendan Gallagher's response should tell you that. They don't want this. They don't want to see Zach McEwen. There's no reason for Ivan Demidov and Zach McEwen to ever share an ice surface. They're different leagues apart. So I've had it with this game. We know this every year. And guess what? We have another one on Saturday. And it's going to be a sort of diplomatic approach again, where I bet Steve Stais and Kent Hughes have another phone call and decide they can't come to an agreement. So nobody's playing in that game.
Yeah.
And that sucks for people like Laura who are going to that game and hoping to see actual hockey players play hockey and not Zach McEwen fart all over the ice. I can't, we need to be done with this. Yeah. So I'm proud of the way that these guys showed up and showed out for each other. I'm glad that they absolutely mopped the floor with this hockey team, because the roster should have done that. And I'm curious to see what happens on Saturday. I don't know who's going to play. None of us do at this point.
Yeah.
I guess we will let the general managers decide who's going to play, which I think is stupid that for a second year in a row we might be headed in that direction.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what's going to end up happening is that Saturday night's game is going to be a bunch of people who we don't expect to see in the NHL lineups, and it's going to be boring. It's going to be overly officiated. You get so much of a peep. Like the officials are going to make themselves the main characters in the story. I just, I'm excited to go to the game, but I don't understand why we have to do this every year. And it's every year. Like the Canadiens and the Senators seem to, like, you set your own schedule. Why are you always playing each other?
Yes, there's no
Play
reason
other
for this.
people. Play other people. Just anyone else. Anyone.
And next year, when they go to a 4-game preseason schedule, these are game 5 and 6. Get rid of them. They're gone. Goodbye. We'll play Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, New Jersey and Buffalo and Toronto, whatever. There's no combination of games that makes sense for this game to exist any longer. These guys have proven that they're not capable of doing it on both sides. Let's be clear about this. Like last year, Montreal was just as much at fault as Ottawa was. In this game on Tuesday, that is not the case. Ottawa was the instigator. Montreal handled business, and we're headed into Saturday hoping that nobody gets hurt and these guys can go into their regular season and have good seasons. Because Ottawa's a good team. They're going to be a good team this year. Why resort to this? I've never understood it. I will never understand it. Jeff Molson, Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes, if you're listening, I'm standing. I always stand when I'm doing the show. I will be on my knees pleading you. Please stop scheduling these games. They do not matter at all. Please. Please, 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 please. All right. I'm done pleading. I'm done yelling about that game. I hope that was enough for fans who wanted blood. That's all I got in me. I think they won 5-0. What do you want me to do? All right. We'll leave that there. When we come back, we have actual hockey to talk about. And I want to focus on the line that I'm now calling the Kapanen line unexpectedly. And we'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting, so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Look, for me, it's the ability to identify that I wasn't saving as much as I thought. It helped me notice my inefficient investments. It helped me notice that I could afford to put a little bit more away. I could afford to invest a little bit more. And one of the other things is it's helped me discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. It's really helpful. It pulls the entire picture together. Don't let your financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, Laura, the Kapanen line. That feels weird, but it
does.
Might be.
It's a thing.
Should we call it the Kapanen line? Is it the Demidov? I think they're all the Demidov line. Whatever line that ends up on. I'm being facetious when saying it's It's the Demidov line. How did you like their game on Tuesday night against Ottawa? It was our first time seeing them together in this kind of environment.
Yes. I was a little bit nervous about how it was going to go because I did feel that with Demidov, I don't want to say his assignment was diminished because that's not how Marty likes to play it. I thought that it was a really big test for Kapanen, right? Yeah. I'm going to put this guy on here, and if you can propel him forward as opposed to holding him back, then you showed us that you belong here. I think it was definitely something. And I don't think it was like, oh, they're trying to shelter or whatever. I really think it was how did these guys play together? How does it look together? And it looked really good. It looked like I think Kapanen in this game and in the last couple of games, to be honest, he's shown himself to be adaptable. And I think that's the key, right? He is somebody who's gonna have a lot of growing pains, but he seems determined to rise to the occasion, and that's what I really love about that.
Yeah, I think he complements that line pretty well. Marty talks about his computer. Marty loves to talk about guys' computers, just the way that they see the game, develop it in their head, and make an idea and make a play. I think he's right. He's bang on about Kapanen. The way that he thinks the game is solid. What I found funny was tracking them their first 3 shifts. So the first shift, they spent the entire time buried in their defensive zone. They couldn't get out. They're not a particularly strong defensive group. I think Newhook will help in that regard, as will Kapanen. I think he'll get there as well. And then the second shift, they score. They make a breakout. They're able to transition. The third shift, the Sens make a mistake. The Canadiens pounce on it, and they go back the other way. I think this line, when it doesn't start in the offensive zone, this line is going to make its money off of transition, off of the counterattack. Because I think both Demidov and Newhook play with so much pace. And I think Kapanen can play at that pace too. I don't think he's a slouch in that regard. I think there's going to be games, in fact, where they are hemmed in their own zone.
Yes.
But because of how supremely skilled Demidov is and how quick they are to go north-south, they still might squeak out a goal despite having a bad night, because they'll just be able to make that counterattack go. I think that's how that line is going to work.
I have seen Kapanen carry the puck. Definitely carry the puck out, right? So that's really, really important. I don't know why, when you were talking and you started talking about players' computers, I just thought the Sens computers are all 1989 Game Boys.
Okay, first of all, that I will not tolerate that kind of slander on the original Nintendo Game Boy. These guys are TI-84 calculators, if that's they are Texas Instrument calculators. No, I will not tolerate Game Boy slander.
Listen, I love Game Boy too, but you got to admit it's pretty primitive.
It's dated, a little bulky.
Yeah.
Not all that in depth. I get it. Tetris is fun though. Anyway, yeah, I think this line can work. I think I do. I think Marty cooked on this line. Yeah. I'm willing to give them another opportunity. We also have to take into account that the Sens did not play their best lineup. So that's part of this. I also, and the reason I say that is because who had a bad night for Montreal on Tuesday? There weren't many, if any, players. Arbor Xhekaj ended up getting kicked. I thought he had a fantastic game otherwise.
Yeah.
I thought he was very good.
Even the getting kicked out, right? Like, that's the spot you pick.
Yes.
Right? Arbor Xhekaj, that is the spot you pick. You don't go hunting for it. But that is exactly where we need you to be that guy.
We talked about that, right? And I know I've been like the preeminent Xhekaj critic on this show, and whatever. What we said was he needs to pick his spots better. He nailed the assignment on Tuesday. So hats off to Arbor Xhekaj. No complaints with how he handled himself in that one. He waited for the right moment and he found it. And I think that's what Marty talked about, right? Was you can't go out there and do that every shift. And he didn't try to. He waited for it to come to him. And when it did, he let his raw natural talent of I'm going to beat the crap out of you take over. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because we do, we need to. I criticize him a lot for this exact thing in the inverse. He nailed this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to put a bow on the Kapanen thought, the spot's his, right? Like we're not at a point now where the race is over. It's him, Beck, Dach. They'll go down, and they'll probably make a decision. They'll probably end up keeping Veleno as the extra. And then Blais will go on waivers. If I had to guess now, that's what we haven't made cuts as of when we're recording this. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, but you said Dach when you meant Florian, I think. Beck,
is that
Florian? Yeah,
Beck,
you said
yes.
Beck.
No, send Kirby Dach down. No, he's in our third segment, because I also thought he was phenomenal on Tuesday.
Yeah, we got to talk about Kirby's night.
Beck, Florian Xhekaj, and Blais probably go down. Veleno. I thought Veleno was great. Again, it's tough to find somebody who was bad in this game.
And we do need that face-off, that face-off skill. So it's definitely. I feel like those two have really separated themselves from the pack.
But give Kirby Dach credit, or not Kirby Dach credit in a different sense. But give Alex Newhook credit, because his ability to win face-offs has allowed them to not necessarily have Veleno in the lineup. They can keep him as an extra for now, but Newhook being able to hold his own in the face-off dot probably made it so they could have Kapanen and still have a left-handed face-off guy in Newhook.
The man did his homework.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they find another way to get Veleno into the lineup. Maybe there's a trade or something that we're sitting on that hasn't been completed yet. Who knows? But I think that's where we stand there. So this is Kapanen's spot.
Yes.
Do you think it's not permanent, but who? who could potentially steal this spot from him, say in November?
I'm gonna say Beck because he's set up to be, their top line center in Laval. That's what I think is gonna happen. Again, things could change. I think he's gonna dominate in Laval. I think he's gonna do a really good job, and I think they're gonna push him into that first line center spot, just to see if he can. And again, I don't know if he steals it from Kapanen or somebody gets called up because of injuries. Because I think Kapanen can play the wing and they can put Beck in center.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's true. I
Yeah.
also wonder, if there's an injury, if they would, if Beck and Xhekaj are playing full time in the American Hockey League, if there's an injury, if they call up, they'll probably call it Blais
Yeah.
first. If it's just going to be some guy that's going to sit in the press box so they have an extra, that's probably what it is. I think the only way that Beck and Xhekaj make it to the lineup at this point, and Wah maybe, although he's completely fallen out of the conversation with how well the rest of these guys have played, like
If
that
someone
that
gets
is
traded away.
someone's traded away, or Kapanen, regresses to a point where it's like, hey, we can't play him in the National Hockey League right now. Well, let's give somebody else a shot. We're
Yeah.
far away from that decision point, but those are the only ways I see at this point Kapanen not having that spot.
Absolutely.
Marty talked about options. They have options. It's a really good place to be in. All right, we'll leave that there. When we come back, another option. Kirby Dach was fantastic, and I'm going to ask if was he fantastic because he and Laine were not together, and we'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, I talk about this a lot. I love FanDuel because it lets me play the way I want to. I like building parlays. I love player props during the NFL season. I love the anytime touchdown player prop and building a couple together as parlays. During the hockey season, I love to put those together with anytime goal scorers. It adds a little extra juice when I'm watching a game. It's something to watch, especially if it's not a Canadiens game. It's just a game I have turned on. I want to be able to have a little bit of skin in the game. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right. Kirby Dach, he scores in this game. A fun goal. Gallagher's on the wing. He throws a saucer pass that had a little too much sauce on it because I think Dach ends up batting it out of midair at about knee height and putting it behind Miralainen. I could have sworn he deflected the Hudson power play goal, but I'm not gonna. It's a preseason game in a different location where they, these neutral site games, they don't have the like NHL tracking that's needed for these. So I'm not gonna go to the map for it. But he scored in this game. He also made very early in the
scored
game
at least one goal. Let's put it that way. He scored at least one goal.
Yes. His goals were greater than or equal to one. He made a play early on in I think it was like the first power play of the game for the Canadiens, where him and Demidov had a mishandle of the puck at their own blue line, and the Sens came back 2-0, and Dach makes a diving play to break up the 2-0. I just feel like maybe Kirby Dach, and it's early, we need to admit that it's early, but that Kirby Dach has taken some of the lessons he needed to learn to heart. Yes. And I think we're recognizing it in this one. One of the last things that I didn't talk about was Dach was the reason one of the Senators players got ejected at the very end, because Dach just dumped the puck in. And I can't remember the player's name off the top of my head now. I remember asking what even is that to what that player was. But
was
it's Sabrango. Yes, correct. Sabrango. Yeah. Kirby Dach, I think is starting to figure it out. And again, it's early. How much confidence do you have that he will continue on this path?
He looked very smug during that game at the end.
He sure did.
He looked smug when he scored. He looked smug when he got that guy ejected. He looked unfazed. I want to see this attitude more. I want to see this personality from him more. I want to see this level of confidence from him more. And I don't care if he's playing and his face looks like somebody you want to punch. I just want that confidence to be there, right? And so there was something about it, like it felt like he was playing with abandon, right? He wasn't hesitating. He wasn't in his head. It was all just pure joy playing hockey, which is hard to say when you're playing against a team as unpleasant as the Ottawa
Yeah, where
Senators.
there's no joy involved in that particular matchup. Although I got to imagine scoring feels pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
on the goal that I thought he scored on the power play when he put his stick in the air, I mean, he looked like
yeah,
he scored an overtime winner, which, maybe
yeah.
tone back a little bit, but also maybe not, because it's read the room. And he
When's
did.
the
But
last time? When's the last time we saw Kirby Dach like this? You know what I mean? Like we haven't seen a Kirby Dach that is like this, that behaves like this, that carries himself like this. So if he wants to, yeah, it's a little bit cringe, but you know what? Who cares?
yeah.
Yeah.
I look, so much of this team's build, whatever you want to call it, hinges on him being an impact player. Because
Yes.
if he's not, they have to find another impact player. Maybe they have to add one already now.
Yeah.
But like if he hits, things get a whole lot more comfortable for the Canadians in defining themselves as contenders.
Hmm.
So I think this was a great step in the right direction for Kirby Dach. I do wonder, and this is where I'll get to the tease that I came into the segment with. I do wonder how much of that is because he wasn't playing with Line, who also had a great game in his own right.
He
Scored
did.
another Demidov to Line power play goal connection. I
So
think I'll just
beautiful.
cry happy tears every time it happens. I just think of the LeBron James meme, smiling through it all. Can't believe this is my life. Just getting to watch that all the time. This is like
Yeah.
my favorite thing.
We can't
Um,
complain.
no, but so so the line was I believe Doc Gallagher, Bolduc. Is that can't be the line when it starts. You have to imagine Gallagher moves down to the Anderson Evans line, and that Line goes up, and it's Doc, Bolduc, Line. I mean, I think that's what they practiced. Are
Yes.
am I overthinking this? Like, does that make sense to go back to Doc and Line as a combo again?
You got to try it again. You have to try it again. I think the difference with putting him with Bolduc and Gallagher is there's a lot less pressure on him, right?
Yeah,
He's not expected to propel this person, these people to score. Because, like, we were thinking Laine, Demidov, Dach, right? Like, that's a lot of pressure because these are highly offensively gifted players. And if you're holding them back, right, that I would imagine that's a concern.
yeah,
But with somebody like Gallagher, it's like Gallagher doesn't score a goal, who cares?
right,
Bolduc doesn't score
exactly.
a goal, who cares? So I feel like that there's a little bit of the mental aspect of it because we talked all along that yes, the injury that he suffered was really one that's really it takes a long time to come back from. But so much of the problem last year was between the ears.
Yeah,
So I think you got to try it again. You got to maybe give him a couple more with on that line with Bolduc and Gallagher, but come Toronto game,
yeah.
you got to play him with Demidov and Laine again, or with
I,
at least Laine,
yeah, I think, and I'll be honest, I think Kapanen, Newhook, Demidov. I want to start the season with that line. I think that line proved, at least through this game, and maybe we'll see it again on Saturday against Ottawa. I think they proved that that's an NHL caliber line. Again, want to
Yes.
see it more, want to see it again. But I think we're at the point now where we're getting close to pencils down on the NHL lineup. And if Doc's the linchpin in this, because if Doc can prove he can carry that line on his own, you can put Line A with him and make it work. But if Doc is reliant on somebody else, it's not going to be Line A and it's not going to be Bolduc. So like that's why I kind of, when it was Demidov there, it made sense. Like he can try to carry that line as a rookie. I know it's tough, but he has that game breaking talent. I get nervous though if this is just a flash in the pan for Doc and we don't actually see this pan out, that could be disastrous. Like I'm really curious to see how this. But if Doc figures it out and this is how he plays more often than not, you can put Line A up there. They'll score a power play. They'll score a 5-on-5 goal every once in a while, and they'll be fine. And then they'll get their cookies on the power play.
Okay, let me give you a question. You
Yeah.
like to ask me questions like this too, all the time. So first 20 games of the regular season, how many of them do you need Doc to play like this to believe the real deal? Like he's going to be the real deal?
Ooh, 11.
Okay, more
I
than
think
half.
I need to see that more often than not he can be that guy. And that's 11 of those games, right? Like that's if I'm doing Price's Right rules, we're just doing the lowest I can go without, going under, I guess. That's what I'm doing. What about you? Do you say around that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I would say, 12, 13 games. I think it's too much to ask 15 games, but you know,
Yeah.
like you said, more often than not. Because if you have him like that for half the season, like you're pretty
Yeah.
good. He
You're
can
in good
make it
shape.
up in the playoffs by being more consistent in the playoffs.
Yeah. And on the power play, like that line is going to pick him up on the power play. Dach is going to get those points. By the way, I do want to mention Gallagher's going to be playing on that unit. Gallagher might have 20 assists on the power play this year, just getting the puck in the corner and touching it 5 feet over the Demidov. Like
Yeah.
that, you watch the goal that they scored. Gallagher just has it in the corner and he puts it up to Demidov, and Demidov skates up and down for about 5 seconds before going cross ice to Laine. I feel like Gallagher's just going to pick up so many stupid points by just being the guy that gets the puck to Ivan Demidov.
Good for him. He put his
Yeah.
body on the line for this team so much. Good for him.
Yeah, for sure. He earned those empty calorie power play points.
Yes.
All right, let's leave that there, and we'll head to our trivia from yesterday. So yesterday's question was in honor of Oliver Kapanen. So we stayed in the Kapanen family here. If the last name Kapanen sounds familiar, that's because it is. Oliver Kapanen is cousins with Kasperi Kapanen, meaning his uncle is Sammy Kapanen, a small Finnish winger who played over 800 NHL games. Sammy Kapanen had his first ever 2-goal game against Montreal when playing for the Hartford Whalers. Which 2 goalies did Kapanen score on in this 5-3 win for, I guess, my Hartford Whalers here in Connecticut? They will be back eventually. What goalies did he chase from the net in this one, Laura?
I don't remember. You told me the answer, and I don't remember.
The first one was Pat Jablonski. Kapanen and Andre Nicolishin scored on Jablonski a minute apart, chasing him from the game. And a young Jose Teodor was the next one who got scored on in that game. Saku Koivu also played in that game. Very young Saku.
Oh, that's so cool.
Some fun names there. Super Rain had that one. Super Rain also was the one to point out that Saku played in that game. So Super Rain, thank you for playing. I think you also appreciated the Finnish question. Thank you for playing along as always. All right, today's question. Kirby Dach scored on Tuesday night, and his brother Colton Dach also scored on the same night for the Chicago Blackhawks in their preseason game. Speaking of brothers, in his rookie season, Kirby Dach was on the roster with this player, the brother of a former Montreal Canadian. So who is this player that Kirby Dach played with on his rookie season with the Chicago Blackhawks? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video. And let us know how smart you are, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show. And that's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day, for subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. You're going to want to tune in tomorrow. We have a fun guest. It is Maud from Game Over Ottawa, who will be joining us, and we will get Ottawa's side of this story. You guys got ours. We will get Maud's representation from Ottawa, so you don't want to miss that. Maud's a great hang. We'll have a good time. You can find us wherever we're posting things. Locked On Canadiens, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on all of those platforms. You can find myself at Locked On at Ian. At maybe it's Ian. That's my handle. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. You can email us lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We do a mailbag every Friday, so make sure you get in your questions to be recorded every Thursday. So get those questions in, and we'll answer them on Friday's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you guys tomorrow.